Good day, good afternoon to everybody here. This is Ken. I'm one of the rocket scientists here and the host of the community calls, and very glad to welcome everybody back for kind of I guess it's a late evening. I'm out here on the East Coast time, so it's 7 o'clock here. I think it's early morning your time, Langers, and good luck trying to figure out what time it is in the world anywhere else. But good day to you, Langers.
Hey Ken, good. Yeah, it's a very easy 9 a.m. for me. So that's perfectly fine for me.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know. Steely was, in the European time zones, and it was a tough time for him to join here. So, but looks like we're good here. So, today's agenda, we wanted to cover a couple of things here. A little bit about governance, a little bit about node operating and smart node, a little bit about some voting votes that are up here, a little bit about the bug announcement, Langers. I saw that you sent out, I guess, earlier this week, or it might have been a little bit, maybe about a week ago, I think maybe. And then just a general update on Saturn 2. Um, so maybe let's take those in kind of reverse order here and just start with the latest from you about Saturn 2.
Cool, awesome. So right, so actually I'm gonna break that down into two bits really. So we've got Amsterdam. So yeah, there's really there's gonna be a release before. Well, I mean technically, if you take the hot fix, there's three releases. But in terms of the roadmap, there's going to be two releases. So there is a Glamsterdam release and then a Saturn 2 release. So with Glamsterdam, obviously we've got Glamsterdam coming up nearer the end of the year. They're kind of progressing quite well. They've got like a public DevNet now, or they're starting to put together a public DevNet, which is really handy for us. And so, we're just preparing for Glamsterdam. There were kind of two items on the Glamsterdam list that required us to make some changes. The changes are not massive, but they are things that we need to change. So Kane's been working on Kane and Fornex and TPAN have been working on that because it encompasses smart contract changes and smart node changes. So yeah, so that's been going really well, and with Amsterdam, we've got some auditors penciled in for very soon. So most of the code has actually been done. I think we've probably got like this week to finish that off, and then there's still some more work to do on the smart node side, but from the contract perspective, I think it should be done by the end of the week.
On the Glamsterdam stuff, can you just give a
Yeah.
like a brief summary of some of the code changes or the impacts that had to be accounted for as part of the Glamsterdam release?
Yeah, so there's two changes. The first one is this. It's not actually called this, but I call it stable containers, and it's to do with the beacon state root and the structure of the beacon state. So currently we got this problem where we use the beacon state root for proving things with megapools, and at the moment, if they change the beacon state root, even if it's like a change that's not related to us, sometimes it can break our stuff. And so this stable containers EIP actually fixes that for us. So that essentially only the parts of the beacon state that affect us, we have to do a release for. So that's a really great EIP for us. And so so there's some changes that we need to make to the structure, basically to the verifier, to the thing that verifies proofs. And so we need to just make some changes to that, basically. And then going forward, it means that we get that benefit of not having to change and not having to do releases when arbitrary things change in the beacon state route in the beacon state. But that's amazing. So that's basically done. The other thing is EPBS, so enshrined proposer builder separation. That comes with a whole heap of stuff. So um, that's more around, so the structure of the beacon state has changed a little bit, and specifically withdrawals, the way that partial withdrawals are managed and handled in the state has changed. So we need to adjust based on that as well. On the smart node, there's a whole heap of stuff because from an infrastructure perspective, things are changing. So like the relays, the MEV relays that we currently have, essentially are going. Like Fordax will probably correct me, but essentially, they're going away, and things will be on chain. But you still have kind of like builder networks and all of this sort of thing to kind of like look into. So there's a few infrastructure changes that we need to make there essentially, and different client parameters to hook into the smart node. So there's a little bit of work there to do as well. So they're the two big things for Amsterdam.
Yeah. Thank you, Lingers. That was very helpful. I just to let you know, I think it's still usable, but the audio is kind of fading or breaking up a bit. I don't know if there's a different setup. If it could just be your bandwidth, or it could be mic issues. I don't know if you have a different mic handy or not.
Yeah, let me swap 1 sec.
Okay. Yeah. Take the second. It will sound better, I bet.
How's that?
Yeah, much better. You really shouldn't use the same mic brand that Vitalik uses, but yeah, this sounds much better.
Gotcha. Excellent. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so you were sharing that there's maybe three releases to Saturn 2, right? We'll talk about the hot fix in a little bit, but you mentioned Glamsterdam, and you said it was really two changes. One, I couldn't make out the word you called it, but the beacon state route changing. What was the name you kind of called that? That you said it's not called that officially?
It's not called it officially. I call it stable containers. It's essentially just um, making sure that the beacon state route, um, or at least the way that we get to the things that we're proving, doesn't change over time. It's a bit difficult to explain, but it's a way of keeping things as consistent as possible across forks. Yeah, across
Yeah, so
forks.
like stable pointers or something. It doesn't matter what
Yeah, exactly.
what the consensus layer does. We're referencing or pointing to it in the correct way. It will always find the correct value.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the second one you mentioned was the EPBS that had a whole bunch of stuff. And will that include, you mentioned it earlier, that includes both code changes that you're sending to auditors, but it also will include a smart node update?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, again, the smart contract changes are because withdrawals basically have changed. They're in a different like part of the state now, and they've changed. The way that they processed it has also changed. But then on the smart node, obviously, there's a whole bunch of infrastructure that we need to either decommission or repoint, basically.
Okay. And yeah, I put in kind of the trading chat, the forecaster. I guess they haven't officially released any, the test net for, the hoodie test net or the mainnet one, but it kind of sounds like from what you're hearing, what I'm hearing, it's, all systems are pretty good on Glamsterdam. So it's, we're what anticipating it maybe October or something like that, or at least certainly before DevCon. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, they've kind of said N or H2, so which is not very not very descriptive. But yeah, we're trying to get things done by kind of like October, essentially. September, October is when we're kind of like aiming to get everything done and out the door.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. And you also mentioned that a audit has to be done because of the smart contract changes, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the audit's very, very small, like on the order of a few days. So it's not like a major audit or anything, but it does need to be audited. So we've got two auditors lined up to kind of like sort that out for us.
Okay. And then you mentioned that there was, maybe three releases. What's the third one?
So then the third one is the actual main body of Saturn 2. Now, as part of when I outlined the roadmap, Saturn 2 itself, we've kind of broken up into a couple of devnets. And I think there was three devnets. And so the idea there is similar to what we did with Saturn 1, is we'll break up the big release into into a couple of devnets so that we can make sure that we obviously show that we're hitting the milestones, but also so that the community can get involved in testing those releases. It's not obviously it's a devnet, so it's not a mainnet release, but it's a one for people to get involved in. So we've kind of broken up the features or the RPIPs into those devnets, and then so we're going to aim to release those, get the community to test it, give us feedback, and refine it, and then we go on to the next devnet, the next devnet. So I think we've got three devnets, I think it is, and so for Saturn 2. Saturn 2 obviously has a whole bunch of stuff in it. I think we're working through on the governance side. A lot of the research and drafting of the RPIPs is basically done. I think we need to just and a lot of I think we're starting to raise discussions, I think, on the DAO forum. But yeah, so the governance part of it is still ongoing, but that's going pretty well. And we've started work on Glamsterdam has taken up a bit of time in the short term, but we've already made a really good start on a couple of the RPIPs for the actual main Saturn 2 part as well.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And is there anything for the Saturn 2 part, the main part, that you need from the community at this time?
No, obviously, once the RPIPs are on the DAO forum, and particularly, obviously, when they go to vote, that's the discussion around the RPIPs, just to make sure that it's kind of like in line with community expectations, and and then obviously the ratification of those RPIPs. They're the key kind of like touch points, I think, for the community. Apart from obviously when we do the devnet, when we actually release the devnets, and you can like test the stuff as well. Whoever if you want to do that.
Yeah, and I kind of feel bad for asking this question. I feel like I should probably know it, but I've just been kind of busy both in real life and online here. But so there's still some voting we actually need on some of the RPIPs, right? I mean, last time we were talking together a few weeks ago, we were you had released your roadmap. We'd seen a lot of the RPIPs kind of finalized, but I guess we still have to actually have a vote to vote on these things, right? I've lost track of that, but it sounds like we do need a vote, huh?
Yeah, so I believe there's a Meta RPIP which covers everything that's in Saturn 2. I think we're just kind of like finalizing that at the moment. And then there'll be a bit of discussion just to make sure everything's okay. And then we can start doing the voting essentially. I think usually there's sentiment polls. There's sentiment polls and all of that sort of stuff. The usual kind of like the governance process.
Yeah, perfect. I guess so many RPIPs, so many releases. I've kind of lost count here. So thank you for humoring my question there. Okay, maybe let's move on to the announcement about the bounty, the bug bounty that was submitted, and this time it sounds like somebody actually found something, right? Not just AI slop, but a real finding. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so this actually the submitter we is a legit white hat. So uh, not AI slop. We get plenty of AI slop. That's actually quite not, I would say a problem. It's a challenge at the moment. The amount of AI slop that we get through the bug bounty program. It's not too bad because it tends to be the same things that get reported, and we can just get back to them quite quickly. But every thing that gets submitted, we have to triage, and so yeah, and we get a lot, particularly when like we change the program or like update it slightly. We get like an absolute flood of submissions. So like it's not terrible. Like it's good that it's being kind of like I guess looked at. But this particular one was a legit white hat. So when we looked at it, so as I said before in the announcement, funds are safe and all of that sort of thing. The Security Council took the measure to pause node registrations, and that's because it's kind of like related to the issue, just so that it couldn't be used. Now, I don't want to give too much at the moment. I want the hotfix to be locked and loaded, which ideally will be this week. So that's perfectly fine. But it's nothing to do with kind of like stealing funds or rETH or anything. There could be some impact on rETH, but it wasn't anything really about stealing funds. The worst case scenario is quite bad, but for it to get to the worst case scenario, things would have to go horribly wrong. And so there were lots of points at which it wouldn't eventuate, and so, but what we did was we took this action to make sure that there was absolutely no chance. So it very much is a case of being abundantly cautious. So I'll try and give some more information later on in the week or early next week. But we've done the hotfix in the sense that it's code complete. It is super simple. It doesn't even need auditing. It's basically just a couple of like little checks in the code. So we're not even putting it through audit. We're just adding some asserts, and then we've put it on testnet, and we're just doing some kind of like sanity checks and a bit of a smoke test to make sure everything's okay. And then we will raise a proposal with the ODAL, ideally by the end of the week. Can't see it's going to beginning of next week, but ideally this week we'll raise the ODAL proposal on mainnet, so that we can get that hotfix out there and and that sort of thing. Then it'll go through the normal upgrade procedure. So it'll be like 7 days of ODAL delay. Then the ODAL will actually vote, and we'll work with the ODAL on that. And then there's a week of upgrade delay. So basically, it'll be 2 weeks from when we raise the ODAL proposal for when the hotfix will actually be in. Once the hotfix is in, we'll re-enable node registrations. There's no point after that once the fix is in. But yeah. So yeah, it's good. It's good that we have the bug bounty program. As I said, we're just being abundantly cautious, and funds are safe in it, and the protocol is safe.
Yeah, perfect. And thank you for kind of walking us through it. And I suppose without divulging anything that could be exploitive before the hotfix, maybe just clarification. So it really affects, I think, new node operators or existing node operators that want to set up a new node account, right? Like, but if you're an existing node operator, if you wanted to make another mega pool, and I mean, albeit there's a very long queue right now, but like that is still enabled. It's just new node operators joining Rocket Pool will have to wait for the hotfix. Is that correct?
This was kind of like the least disruptive way that we could contain it. So it does mean that new nodes can't be registered at the moment until we've released the hotfix and re-enabled it again. But normal operation of the protocol is resuming, as if nothing's happening. So it's just adding new node operators at the moment.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be too disruptive from my point of view. So yeah, looking forward to hearing much more about this, and once the hot fix is up and in place, and you can disclose more. But yeah, that's great, and yeah, I'd love to hear the story on how it was reported, and if Gaines going through a whole bunch of them and says like, "Whoa, look, somebody actually found something," or because that's the concern, I suppose, if you get a whole bunch of low quality submittals, will it be harder to find the quality submittal?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk about another one. There's, I think, a vote that is still underway here, either that or it just recently concluded, that is an on-chain vote for the PDAO. Do you want to share a little bit about that? And I guess you reminded me it just concluded, and I believe it passed, right? It made I did see I was a late voter on it, and I did see the couple of folks right before me had just brought it over to reach the minimum consensus threshold, so that way it would pass. And at least by the time I voted, it was favoring for a pass, correct?
Yeah, I think it's unanimous. I think it's it's the IMC recurring
Funding
payment, I think.
on-chain vote. Yeah, correct. I think I'm confusing my agenda items. You're right. It was the IMC funding one that was the on-chain vote. You're correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the off-chain, the signaling one is the IMC selection. So that went live yesterday. I think I don't see whether. Oh yeah, no, Mav's already put an announcement out about that, which is great. So so that vote is up on Rocket Dash at the moment in terms of selecting IMC nominees and that sort of thing.
Yeah, excellent. And so we just need everyone to, take a look at that link. I guess if you look in the protocol announcements, you'll see that. And it's getting time to reappoint and revote in members to serve on the IMC. Okay, let me.
Yeah. I think it's a slightly weird one because The nominee. There's 7 nominees and 7 spots, so I think everyone's going to get on the IMC. But it's good that we go through the same process. But it does need quorum, so definitely get voting on that so that it hits quorum and we can vote in the next IMC.
Yeah, and then I guess there's another one here. Or maybe it's just an initial signaling process, but it's the PDAL signaling process. And I guess maybe it's worth just taking a second about this. And this is the whole, how do we do the signaling, right? Previously we'd used a software platform called Snapshot, right? It allowed for kind of off-chain voting by rocket pool. There's the on-chain process that we do now. I mean, most of the time, Ethereum transactions are pretty cheap now, so that's kind of working. But it did seem like we also had to make a decision here about how we would actually, do our polling or our voting. The signaling versus on-chain voting. Any comments on that? I know it's been an active discussion, and is there a clear path forward yet on that?
Yeah, so the DAO voted, I think it's up at 82. Is it 82? No,
Yeah. I think it's
84.
84. Yeah, Dr.
84.
posting that in there too. Yeah.
Yeah. So the DAO voted on RPIP 84, which is the PDAO signaling governance kind of vote. The idea behind that was to kind of have, so as you said, we're using Snapshot, and I think in RPIP 4, which is the thing that defines how we vote, it specifically mentions Snapshot. And I think we just needed a bit more flexibility on the platform that we use. Snapshot has served us pretty well, but they essentially they kind of up their pricing, and we didn't necessarily want to be tied to them in the future. So the idea behind RPIP 84 was to add that flexibility and to kind of like choose a signaling platform that we can use kind of going forward for this role of doing signaling votes. So essentially meta votes for the protocol. And Steely's done an amazing job on the Rocket Dash kind of like voting platform, and so that's the first kind of recognized signaling platform that we're using going forward. It's maintained by Steely, so he's done a fantastic job on it. And this is kind of like the first, this is kind of like the first vote, I guess, the IMC selection vote. That we're actually using the new platform. So yeah, we'll go through the process, make sure everything works okay, and we'll work with Steely as well. And so yeah, so that seems to be going pretty well. The other thing that RPIP 84 has, it does have like an emergency ballot system if we need to change the signaling platform as well. So again, we have this kind of like flexibility on changing signaling platforms. So that's really good. I think it's a good outcome for the protocol. It means we don't have to spend money on Snapshot. We can kind of just use this this solution, and obviously supporting somebody in the community who's doing great stuff as well, which is fantastic. I think that's basically that. But yeah, it's the first vote, and we'll do more votes obviously through the platform.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, that totally makes sense. Like I said, a lot to keep track of in all the moving balls here, but it seems like okay, we're now using the Rocket Dash. It's now our signaling platform, and indeed the IMC election vote is indeed the first one that is based on the outcome of our PIP 84. So looks like we're good and set in that arena. Okay, let me switch over to kind of node operators, and this was kind of an exciting one in kind of retrospective. I missed it originally. Well, I mean, I saw the update. I didn't really read the update notes. I guess I need to learn from that. But then I saw that Fornax had actually commented on a challenge I was having on my 2 terabyte drive. Like many of, I think, rocket pullers here, we bought our hardware a number of years ago, and back then the specifications were 2 terabytes. I think I forget what EIP it is. Ethereum now has minimum specifications, and I think they're recommending, don't quote me on it, but I think it's a 4 terabyte drive now or slightly more. But we were all kind of like trying to extend or sneak out our 2 terabyte drives as much as possible. And I now see that the new release now, which is Smart Node version 1.21.0, now supports a couple of new things. Langers, you want to talk about them and what we have for node operators, and any advice you have about choosing clients and software here? But tell us a little bit about this latest version and kind of what it unlocks.
Yeah, so it includes kind of like a rolling history expiry. So essentially a new pruning mode that the um, a lot of the clients now support. And so that's kind of built into the Smart Node 2E and everything now. So that's really good. It does mean that we can reduce that burden on the drive capacity. So that's amazing. I think also, so that's mainly around the hard drive space as well. The team is not in a release yet, but the team have also been working on kind of like memory and CPU improvements as well. And so I think there's a pretty big release uh, coming up next that will target particularly like memory usage with the smart node and the way it kind of like gets its state. So definitely watch out for that as well. So that should also help on kind of like the lower spec machines as well.
Yeah,
I'm in the same boat in terms of my 2 gig, but 2 terabyte, by the way.
yeah, and I was reading that now we also support the Aragon client. And I was kind of reading through some of the kind of comparisons between the various clients, and I guess Aragon has a more optimized database design. So it even without a change to the expiry settings, it seems to have a much more efficient or more compact database format. And supposedly it's going to be the lowest sized footprint execution client that is out there. So I'm kind of excited to try it and these things. Will there be kind of any advice? I know many of us are running more validators now with mega pools, right? We've been able to kind of double our validator count if we were lucky enough to get in with a mega pool. Will there be any advice to like configuration settings on history expiry? Like how far back do we need to keep it in order to be an effective node, or just any recommendations in general?
Yeah, I'll have a talk to Fornax and see what we can do. I think we try to have sensible defaults, but I'll talk to him and see whether we can put something out about that as well. With the Aragon, Aragon's always been a bit of a funny one. It used to kind of like be a bit of a pain in the butt to work with, but I've actually heard some really good things about Aragon recently. So I think the latest version of Aragon is actually really good. So yeah, so exciting.
Yeah, I too have heard good things. Like I'm a huge Nimbus fan, but and definitely performance, it's great, but it's also getting big, or maybe just the chain is getting big, or a combination of blobs and subscriptions and and kind of all that stuff. But I was getting a fair amount of space alerts, and then getting to a point where it was difficult to even do pruning because it wouldn't maintain the minimum. I think it's 100 gigabytes needed to prune, so it was kind of a resync, and things were supposed to snapshot, but I noticed a lot of the snapshot services, like many of the projects in crypto, might have shut down. So I was searching quite a bit to try to find to find a valid URL that would snap sync to, and it took a little bit of effort. And then in general, I think I would normally ask, Patches, or I'd ask Yorick, hey, what do you recommend on these settings? And it seems like it's been a while for there. And I'm sure others in the community are aware that the ETH staker community is doing a little bit of a pivot. They're becoming kind of a consensus facilitator. They're pivoting, like many of the EF funded programs have, to be a little bit more self-dependent. So the ETH staker community has rebranded to, I think, called the ETH consensus. And as it's maybe trying to find its function in there. But normally I would catch like Staking Nerd Talk or one of these things to get some advice about the proper settings. And maybe it's just me that kind of missed some of this messaging or stuff. But I do think this is where Rocket Pool could step in a little bit, just to have some recommended settings, even if they are conservative, that would kind of help. Because I'm sure if I'm having space problems, you're having space problems. Other node operators might also be reaching near capacity on their 2 terabyte drives.
You got me. You got me paranoid about my disk space now. Just opened up Grafana just to triple check. I think it's ETH coordinate. They've gone to
Yeah, ETH
get
coordinate. Yeah, thank you.
ETH coordinate. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you. So too many, etherealize, ETH institutional, ETH coordinate, right? It's I'm gonna need a new lexicon
ETH
or two.
labs. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
ETH labs. Yeah,
whole new ecosystem of players and names.
yeah. It's it's gonna be there, and then of course, the big New York conference just announced today they're doing it again next year. That's ETH Conf. So yeah, we have to keep track of everything that starts with the word ETH these days. So yeah. And yeah, no, I actually see the comment in here, from A35 about everybody's back to Raspberry Pis, but it does sound like, it's hard to keep track of everything in Ethereum. There's sort of like what's happening now with the Glamsterdam. There's also like what's happening now in, Hagata, right? And then there's kind of like, the iStar after it. And they're really pushing that kind of lean Ethereum where, the roles of validators change yet again. And, it does sound like that at least in the current road mapping, the responsibilities and duties of validators decreases. And so, in kind of that lean Ethereum model, there might even be less computer resource intensive than it is now. And so, I know that's still a little bit of ways away and a little bit of theoretical in some regards, but it is interesting. Yeah, we might be, in all seriousness, we might be just fine on Raspberry Pis.
It definitely looks like it's kind of like going that way. Or the only difference is, I think I was talking to the EF a little bit around like local block production, and I don't know. I'm still waiting on some kind of like feedback and stuff, but because I was under the impression local block production was essentially going away, but when I was speaking to them, it didn't seem like it was going away. So so maybe I don't know. Maybe local block production is still going to be around. In which case you would need a decent machine for that, or at least more bandwidth rather than. Well, no, you would need quite a. Anyway, yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, you and me, it's sometimes kind of hard to keep track of everything. And, it's I should just make it a priority to listen to some of the all core devs calls. But one of the things I am hoping for, I'm looking forward to, it's coming up in a couple of months here is DevCon in India, and I always find that in the staking track that they have there, I find it's pretty informative just to sit in the room and kind of have it spoon fed to me about where we're at, where we're going, what's actual, what's planned, what's being debated, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I hope to pay more attention to that. There is, I mean, if anybody's been paying attention, there's been kind of a very large discussion in all of the crypto Twitter and all of the podcasts about the inflation, the issuance, the minimal viable issuance, the validator number, that whole kind of saga is being kind of heavily debated now. But there's all these other ones about lean Ethereum and validator duties and all those sort of maybe corollary items that are there. So, but yeah, it is going to be kind of interesting to see how Ethereum grows and matures over the next couple of years here. But it seems like we're at a kind of a critical point where they're making a lot of the initial decisions that will kind of lay the framework for what it does look like.
It's definitely come a long way, and obviously there's improvements all the time. Technology is improving. ZK seems to be improving, really, really quickly, faster than kind of people realize. So yeah, just interesting times.
Yeah, yeah, definitely agree. The other thing I had on here is maybe a public service announcement or just kind of a fun announcement. Many of you know Steely here in the community, who's worked, on the amazing kind of dashboard known as Rocket Dash that provides just tremendous metrics and insight both for node operators and for rETH holders in there. But one of the things that he's created, and I know he's worked a little bit with Schifrin on there, is I don't know if I'd call it a replacement, but a continuation of the POOPs, right? If folks have been paying attention, POOP earlier this year kind of indicated that they were shutting down, but they were originally planning to keep the protocol intact for existing individuals such as the GMC or many in the Rocket Pool community here that had previously minted POOPs. But then recently, I'd say within the last 30 days or so, they announced that indeed they're discontinuing altogether. And I think Patricio, who's led that effort, is looking at contributing his efforts and other parts of Ethereum that's in there. But unfortunately, it meant that one of the fun things that many in the Rocket Pool community here have always enjoyed, which is the ability to issue and mint POOPs or receive POOPs, has kind of disappeared. We've given them out many a times for events in Rocket Pool, but one of the things that kind of came out of a few conversations here, as everybody was kind of doing screenshots of their previous POOPs and indicating some fun memories they had in collecting them, is that Steely has created something called RP Moments that you can access on his website. And right now they've got it kind of on a permissioned minting where both Steely and Schifrin have the ability to create POOPs and kind of create a drop. But Steely wanted me to kind of use a little bit of time today to just indicate for folks that would like that ability to kind of reach out to him, and he'd love to at least in the Rocket Pool community, have a way to continue these things as little celebratory gifts or memorals, I suppose, of fun events here in the Rocket Pool community. So you can kind of contact him and treat it almost like a POOP request, and he'll try to see what he can do to make it happen. So if you haven't had a chance to see those or collect them, there's a couple of these little Rocket Pool memories that you can go and claim now, and it's kind of a fun way to continue that fun part of the effort to continue on.
I love the fact it's got that old POAPs in there, so you can kind of like scroll through and see all the ones that were done. Yeah, there's so many, so many good memories.
Yeah, there was a lot of them I forgot till I saw the PO-op, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, so Langers, anything else as we kind of draw through the end of the agenda items here? Are there any things that either you or Mav or anyone else feels important about the community here, or that you'd like to share with the community?
No, I think we've covered everything really well. Uh, as I said, I'll do an announcement about the hotfix stuff very soon, so that we can get that out there and get that live. So that'll be kind of like the next thing you'll probably hear from us. But yeah, no, that I think we've covered everything really well. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, I'm hoping with the positive price action in Ether that the sentiment is hopefully changing, and we'll have a lot of interest by integrators and DeFi companies to continue on with some of those special guest calls. I always enjoyed them, and very much look forward to having a number of special guests come join us here in the coming weeks ahead. Sounds good. Well, Lingers, Mav, thank you again for joining us, and everyone else that joined here live. That looks great. We'll go ahead and get the recording up on the YouTube channel as much as possible for those that are in unfavorable time zones, that they can kind of hear it when they wake up tomorrow morning.
Cheers, Ken. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
See you guys. Bye.